back to Amateurs Podcast. I'm Logan.
I'm Rhett.
This is the fourth installment in our conference tier list series. Today we're covering the Big 12 or the Big 16, whatever floats your boat.
Right.
It's going to be a refreshing episode after last week's Big East debacle or the Big Least. I think even the Tier 5 teams here have some pretty redeeming qualities. And speaking of the tiers, we have 5 tiers. Tier 1, Natty Contender. Tier 2, Lock. Tier 3, Bubble. Tier 4, Could Surprise. And Tier 5, Sorry. And we're going to go through them in alphabetical order, as always. Anything to say before we get right into it?
No, though I think when we did this and comparing it, and we said this at the start, the Big 12 and the SEC are they're going to vie for the top conference in the Power
I
Five.
personally have a little bit of a preference towards the SEC, but I think the top of the top in the Big 12 is just as good as anybody else.
But refreshingly, neither of us have a rooting interest in this conference.
True. So we'll start off with Arizona. Where do you have Arizona?
I have them Tier 2.
I also have them Tier 2. It's pretty obvious for me. They're stars, Caleb Love, and they bring in some good talent with Trey Townsend from Oklahoma, Toby Awaka from Tennessee, Carter Bryant's like a 5-star kid. But for me, what's holding them back from being a natty contender is just all that talent they lost.
Yeah, they did lose a lot of talent.
4 stars.
And, they have some question marks here. You've got Krivas, 7'2" guy, didn't play a lot last year, but just got back from the Eurobasket tournament and did very well out there. You do have Awaka who could step in, but Awaka is really a limited offensive player, and is not as tall as some of the other guys he's facing. Townsend, heck of a player. But it is a step up.
Yeah, but he was really impressive in their tournament run.
He was. They also have Del Orso from Camp.
Yeah, I feel like the production at Campbell it's going to be hard to.
Shot 38%.
Yeah, but just there's a lot of guys in front of him is why I didn't. Caleb Love, KJ Lewis probably going to make a jump this year. Jaden Bradley's experienced.
Yeah, I don't love their options at the 1, but
yeah.
And the only knock on
Jaden Bradley's a solid point guard.
Solid, yes, solid. The only knock on Caleb Love is he's inefficient.
Yeah. But year 5. We're gonna see the same Caleb Love, but
yeah, I'm not sure how much Carter Bryant plays unless
really
if Townsend,
he's like a 3.
Yeah, did you play Awaka? You're gonna start Bryant. Bryant is developing. Okay.
He's a good player.
He's a good player. He's ranked very high, but he doesn't have a full skill set yet. His defense is at times questionable. He does shoot a nice ball from the line, but that hasn't translated effectively from the 3-point line, and he's old thin. As an energy guy off the bench, I got no problem. We'll see. We'll see if he starts.
Moving on to the state of Arizona State. Where do you got them?
Yeah, and we may have a disagreement here. I have them Tier 4.
I have them Tier 3.
But I could easily see that them making that push. They really benefited late in the window.
Yeah, for sure. When they picked up Jaden Quaintance, who's going to be my star for the team, and also Josan Simone.
Yeah.
And then they also picked up like a trio of some production at lower levels with BJ Freeman from Milwaukee, I think, Bashir Jihad, and Alston Mason from Missouri State. And they also have Amir Ali coming in, who's like a top 50 kid.
And they returned Miller, who gives you some solid
production.
Yeah,
Adam Miller, good player. They do lose Frankie Collins, Jose Perez, Jemiah Neal to some production, but I think this is probably going to be one of the better Arizona State teams we've seen in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. Getting that center and Sononim really changed the
dynamic. Yeah,
dynamic here, and that was all a domino because of Arizona.
Yeah, getting Caleb Love back.
And it's kind of a surprise that they got the center. He was committed to Kentucky and then didn't follow
to Arkansas.
Cal to Arkansas.
Well, I do think, however, this is going to be a big year for Bobby Hurley.
I agree.
He's been like rumored to be on the hot seat for a while now, and with this, they got 2 5-stars coming in, good talent. You know,
I could easily see them making the turn.
Yeah.
Especially, but this is no sleeper of a conference. So.
yeah. I mean, first disagreement, but not really one. Now we have Baylor. I think we'll probably agree. I'm tier 2.
I do as well. Let's just double check. But yes, tier 2.
My issue with Baylor is preventing me from putting them tier 1 is their size.
Yes.
They're really
Very
small for the Big
short.
12. I mean,
Yes.
we've seen Norchad O'Meara can bang with the big boys.
But he's only
Pause.
6'7".
Yeah, I mean,
He went full Diddy on me there.
but I mean, like, yeah, I mean, Norchad, he plays way bigger than he is, but they don't got nobody else. Like, I saw a projected lineup, they got Langston Love at the 4, and
Yeah.
he's like 6'5", maybe. But I really do like VJ Edgecombe. I've been super high on him from the jump.
Yeah.
And after his performance with the Bahamas, and they're trying to qualify for the Olympics, where he was basically the best player on that team with Buddy Hield, Eric Gordon, DeAndre Ayton. I mean, that kid is going to take the NCAA by storm. And I think him and Norchad is a really formidable duo.
Well, and they bring Roach in from Duke,
Yeah.
who's a productive player. We may not always love his game.
But I mean, that's a good college point guard, like
Very
a
good.
really good college point.
And you've got Robert Wright, the kid coming in from Montfort.
Highly regarded.
So you're set at those 2
And
positions.
return Langston Love, Jaden Nunn,
Right.
some production.
And you add this kid Celestine from Cal, who is 6'8".
Yeah, but Cal didn't really do a lot.
Well, he's 6'8".
It's true. Well, they need all the size they can get, and also they got the Scott Drew plus bonus.
That's the issue I have. Baylor, to me, has lost its identity. When they
Yeah.
achieve some success,
When they achieved a natty,
and they got the natty, and then Scott Drew realized, oh, I can recruit top 25 kids. I think he got away from the core of his mission statement, was defense.
But
And
they got
length. They had length
Yeah.
in spades for years.
they were also the defense was crazy. They have some good defenders. Langston Love's a good defender. VJ Edgecombe, Norchad O'Meara solid. Roach solid.
So yeah,
But they don't have Davion Mitchell.
no, and O'Meara, for as productive as he was, you can't ask him to go out and rim protect because if he gets in foul trouble,
Who do you have behind him?
there's a kid I can't pronounce his name. Begins with an O. Ola Jawan, something like that.
I don't even see him on their roster.
He's a yeah, I don't have him listed here, but
Yeah, so they got really no one to back up.
yeah,
Norchad.
no, he's not an accomplished player, but
Yeah.
he's big
Yeah.
at least.
So that's what's holding me back. Put them tier 1. Moving on to BYU. I think we might disagree here. Where do you have BYU?
I have BYU tier 4.
I also have them tier 4. I saw a couple people had them a little higher. I really like their hire, Kevin Young,
Yeah.
the Suns assistant. I thought he was probably going to get an NBA job. Chose to go to BYU. BYU's interesting to me. Igor Danim is going to be a high first-round pick projected. And they also bring in Cannon Catchings, who was committed to Purdue and from OTE, good player. Transfers Mewat Mag from Rutgers, productive, and they also return Traore, who's like a barrel-chested beast down low.
Yeah, shorter than Norchad.
He's like 6'5".
6'6", 6'5", yeah. And they return basically their backcourt,
Mhm.
minus Jackson Robinson, Hall, and Knell.
Yeah.
Knell, who are heady guards.
And Richie
And Richie Saunders. Decent shooters, heady guards, fit the Pope style.
Kevin Young now, though.
Yeah, so I don't know what that means for them. My issue is entirely, I don't know who their alpha is.
I put them as Igor Danim because, I mean, he's just highly, regarded right now. But my issue with them last year, we saw they did a lot of zoom action and it got them so many open threes. But the key to that was Ali Khalifa. He's a great passer. He only averaged 6 points a game, but he was their starting big man. Great passer. They put him up top and ran a lot through him. And they lose him along with their leading scorer in Jackson Robinson and a couple other good players.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Kevin Young's going to continue that Pope philosophy with the shooting, which was playing to their strengths there.
Yeah, they are experienced
Yeah.
and
Well, they're BYU. All these guys, went away for
yeah,
2
they're all
years.
25. No knock there. They're experienced, and so maybe that experience overcomes some of their deficiencies,
And talent, and they can shoot. They can
and they
shoot.
can shoot.
But so we're moving on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I struggle with them. I have them tier 4, but I could easily see them being tier 3.
I also have them tier 4. I was underwhelmed when I actually saw their roster. Um, I think the star will be Jizzle James, Edgerrin James' son. He had a decent freshman year last year, but he's a really dynamic point guard who kind of found his. He got in stride last year toward the end.
Mm-hmm.
They also bring in Dylan Mitchell from Texas, good player, Connor Hickman, and Ayrton Page from USC, who was a pretty high recruit out of high school, but underperformed last year with the entire USC roster.
Yeah, Page looked fantastic when he was paired with Isaiah Collier in high school.
Yeah.
He did exactly what you wanted from big at that level: rim run, protect, get out in transition. He's very athletic, and looked nothing like that at USC. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that's a problem. My question for you is Dylan Mitchell a better shooter than Mark Mitchell, or a worse shooter than Mark Mitchell?
Um, I think Mark Mitchell will actually shoot it, and Dylan just doesn't shoot it. I think he's a better athlete, though. That's pretty ridiculous. But also with Cincinnati, a redeeming quality for me, other than Wes Miller, I like him as a coach, is they don't really experience that much loss in production, and they bring back a good amount.
Yeah, they bring back Lucosius,
Skillings,
and Skillings and Thomas. I think it's Day Thomas.
yeah, Dede Thomas, Jizzle James. They bring back a good and CJ Frederick, who actually was at Kentucky a couple years ago, the shooter,
and Iowa.
and Iowa, yeah.
And Skillings. No, you said Skillings. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Hickman they bring in from Bradley, good shooter, 40%. Average 15 there. They shoot the ball well. Other than Dylan Mitchell. But I do see them getting better. I think they won almost 20 games last
Well,
year.
they were a surprise last year, first year in the Big 12, and they actually had some nice key wins there. I don't know this team. I didn't like the team last year, and they were okay. This team's probably gonna be a little bit better. Hopefully, Jizzle James makes that jump.
Right.
But for now, they're tier 4 for me.
I too am a big fan of Wes Miller.
Yeah. Moving on to now, we said earlier there were some redeeming attributes on all the teams.
Yeah.
We might have to rescind that statement for this next team, the Colorado Buffaloes.
Don't they return Tristan Da Silva, KJ Simpson, Cody Williams, Javon Hadley?
No, none of
them.
Or Eddie Lampkin.
Or Eddie Lampkin.
Yeah, they actually, their highest returning player in points is 7 a game, and their highest, they bring in a transfer from a D2 school, an NAIA school, and a under 10 point a game scorer from Washington State.
Yeah.
Their highest freshman recruit is 85th in the country.
Yeah.
And then they also lose, like we said, all those guys.
Everybody.
3 draft picks and 2 starters at other schools.
I have struggled with some teams to find 5 starters. Here, I've struggled to find any starters.
This is really bad.
I don't understand it.
This might be, dare I say, the worst team we've previewed so far.
Wow.
I at least knew some of the players on
Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's way better than DePaul. I knew some of the players.
DePaul. I forgot about DePaul.
I mean,
yeah, I don't understand it. They were in a resurgence. They've done well.
They did really well last year.
They put guys in the league, for crying out loud.
3.
So, yeah, and I saw them ranked on one site as high as 13th.
13 out of 16. That tells you it's that egregious.
As high as.
Yeah, it's egregious.
Me. Okay.
We shall see, but they are solidly in the Star division.
Yeah, I didn't check if they added any Bulgarians or Turkish players, and that might change
Yeah,
their
sometimes the
forecast.
international don't show up, but I. Next up, we have Houston,
Yes,
and for
from
me, that's my first tier one.
agreed. We go from the outhouse to the penthouse.
Yeah. Who do you think their star is going to be this year?
It's got to be Sharp or Crier.
Yeah, I think Sharp. This will be his year. He's been behind a lot of dynamic scorers in the past 2-3 years in college, and I think he's going to make that big jump and be that guy for them.
Now, this is not, in my mind, a vintage Houston team. I like the teams the last 2 years way better.
Yeah, I hear you with Shed, but I mean the production they return, and also with Houston, we always talk about these schools. Oh, they're not bringing in anybody for the transfer portal. Houston doesn't really do that.
No.
Their guys just move up, move up, move up through the ranks. The old school, Kelvin Sampson. Also, Kelvin Sampson makes anything.
It's huge.
Yeah. They returned L.J. Cryer, Emmanuel Sharp, Juwan Roberts, Javier Francis, Terrence Arsenault, who was hurt last year. He could have been good. JoJo Tugler was a freshman who got some nice spot minutes, and they also bring in one transfer, but it's solid one, Milo Suzon from Oklahoma. Mercy Miller is a decent recruit, Masterpiece son, who we talked about in the last episode. I mean, I just think with the names they bring back, and also the thing about Houston is, as long as you defend, as long as they defend, they don't need to score.
Agreed. I'm not worried about the scoring production. That doesn't bother me. The depth in the front court worries me.
Yeah.
They're not as tall as some teams, not quite as short as Baylor. And Uzan, you saw as soon as they got him, wow, Houston's back. He's a nice player.
Yeah, he's not like a huge transfer get,
No.
but he's a good player.
Good player.
Yeah.
I have questions about this team, but I think Kelvin Sampson.
You got to trust in Kelvin.
Yeah, until he doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah. Next up, we have another pretty good team, really good team, Iowa State.
Yep.
I have them tier 2.
I have them tier 1.
Okay, what makes you so in love with Iowa State?
The same reason we love Houston.
TJ Altenberger.
They defend so well.
Yeah.
And they return
Good.
almost everything.
Yeah.
They added Deshaun Jackson at the center. Didn't have staggering numbers at Charlotte. He was 11-6 there, 6'11" kid. They added Nate Heiza from Northern Iowa, 6'5" kid who can score a little bit. But their star is Lipsy.
I think their star is going to be Milan Momcilovic. He was a really good freshman year last year, 11 points a game.
Yeah.
And he was a 5-star coming out of high school. So this is a year where I can see him making that jump because we know what Lipsy's going to be. I think he's reached his. We know what he is.
I think he's an excellent.
But I do think he's a really good guard. I had him as the second star. Great defender, really good defender.
Yeah, and they bring in Jefferson from St. Mary's, a 6'8" kid to add depth. They're very deep along the front court. You're going to have to move some guards around, but there's not. They shoot the ball, they defend the ball, they rebound the ball. What are they missing?
Yeah.
Maybe an alpha scorer, but
it's kind of similar to the Houston stuff.
Right.
I mean, and also, just looking at all these teams we've been through so far, is the Big 12 the best coaching league in the country?
That's a hard one because they got
really good coaches.
SEC is stacked too.
I know, but the Big 12, we've just gone, just from the teams we've covered, and we're about halfway through. Tommy Lloyd, good coach, just the standout coaches. Scott Drew, Kevin Young, we don't know how he's going to be in college, but NBA quality.
Sampson.
Wes Miller, Kelvin Sampson, and TJ Altenberger, halfway through. And we haven't even hit Bill Self yet.
Yeah.
Who might be the best coach in the country.
Yeah, but all those coaches, except for, as we mentioned, Scott Drew, they have a point of view. Sampson, it's defense.
Scott Drew had it,
but he's kind of fallen away from that. The interesting one is Bill Self does not have, if you are going to pinpoint it, he's probably a better offensive coach than he is defensive coach. He doesn't really have a style.
I do think he does, actually.
What?
They always play through their bigs. They have a dominant big every single year.
Okay. Inside out then.
Yeah, I
Fair.
mean, think about it. Like every year they've had Hunter Dickinson for the past couple.
Yep.
They had David McCormick when they won it all. They've had Udoka Azubuike.
Yep.
I'm missing one in there, but they always have pretty dominant big.
No, it's fair. It's a fair point.
And they put up a ton of points. But next, speaking of Kansas, it seems like we have 3 tier 1s for you in a row because they better be tier 1.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
they're tier 1 for me. I think this is the best team in the country at the moment. Alabama might have something to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're stacked. They do lose McCullough and Johnny Furphy, but they bring back Hunter Dickinson, KJ Adams Jr., DeJuan Harris, the best running the team point guard in the country. El Marco Jackson, I think he actually got injured.
Yeah, he may be out.
He's out. But the transfer class is where they really shine. They bring in Zeke Mayo, who averaged 19 at South Dakota State. AJ Storr, who we all saw him at Wisconsin dominate. Rylan Griffin, who everyone was surprised to hear him leave Alabama after their year.
Yep.
And also freshman, Flory Bidunga, 5-star, and Rakis Passmore, low 5-star, high 4-star.
You left out David Coit, 5'11" guard from Northern Illinois, who averaged 21.
Oh, they just picked him up. But I don't know how much he's going to play.
Well, the interesting thing is the Timberlake experiment failed.
Yeah, but it's kind of the same thing, 20 at a low level.
Well, that's what I'm saying about Zeke Mayo.
No, Mayo, they're different. Timberlake was at, I think, Towson. Mayo made the tournament 2-3 years.
I understand. South Dakota State, which is primarily a shooter, it does have some more elements to his game than Timberlake.
Yeah. He can be a ball guard. They have DeJuan Harris, but he can have the ball in his hands.
But you're asking him to make that leap.
I know.
Like you were asking Timberlake.
Yeah, but he's been this good for a couple of years, and they made the tournament a couple times.
And the good thing is, if he fails, it doesn't matter because you've got Hunter Dickinson at the center, and now with Bidunga to spell him, you're set there. AJ Storr in the Big Ten tournament really was a revelation.
Unbelievable.
Just a different player. Then you've got Adams, you've got Rylan Griffin, who may start. I don't know how that sorts out. You add Coit for depth. He gives you a different speed and a different look at the one. Just a stacked team. Hard to disagree that they're
top 3 at least.
Top 3 at least. I frankly though, I would be leaning into Iowa State
winning the Big 12.
Yes.
Wow.
Believe it or not, but I love this Kansas team. I don't. There's no holes. Yeah.
Next up, Kansas State. I have them tier 2. What about you?
I do as well.
I mean, I really like this transfer class that Jerome Tang brought in.
Yep.
They lose some production. They lose a good amount of production. Tyler Perry, Cam Carter, and Arthur Kaluma. But man, do they replenish that stock. They got Doug McDaniels from Michigan, who we all know what he can do. Akor from Sanford, who we saw a little bit in his conference tournament, and they should have beat Kansas, Sanford. Yeah. Max Jones from Cal State Fullerton, good scorer. Coleman Hawkins, who everyone thought was going to the NBA, decided to run it back. He is a do-it-all player. CJ Jones, who put up around 11 a game at UIC. Brendan Halson, who's a great shooter from Villanova. And Big U, I guess. Ugonna Onyenso from Kentucky, who was a borderline starter. He got a lot of minutes. He wasn't as productive, but he was primarily a defender, rim protector, rebounder.
Yep.
And he's legit. And also, underrated pickup, Bay Fall from Arkansas. He was a 5-star coming out of high school, had a basically nothing year this past year at Arkansas. But if Jerome Tang can unlock that potential that everyone saw a year and a half ago.
Yeah, they also added a JUCO 6'8" kid. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it.
Big Moby, that's what we're going to call
him. They are loaded up front.
Yeah, they're big, dude.
And they're big. This kid Jones from Cal State Fullerton, very good shooter, shot 39%. Brandon Housen.
Housen. They can shoot.
The kid from Illinois Chicago, Jones averaged 5 assists, so he can spell Doug. And people who haven't seen Doug McDaniel before, you're in for a
They
treat.
might not see.
He is a blur. I've seen him since high school, up in the DMV. He had a weird situation with Michigan where he allegedly was suspended for academic,
but only for away games.
but only for, was it home games?
No,
or
it was away games.
Away games, which was beyond bizarre.
Sounds like house arrest.
Yeah, and it didn't come out until,
Yeah, it was a very strange situation the way they handled it.
Yeah.
But regardless,
you've got
he can
options here,
play.
and that's the key. And Coleman Hawkins now, whether he plays the 5 or the 4, is a, I think, a vastly underrated player. He has a lot of that facets to his game.
Yeah.
I saw him as a freshman and I thought, okay, this is a kid who's going to shoot the ball well and he's going to be a mismatch in limited minutes. He really shined. And then what you saw is an evolved player who is well-rounded, does everything well, but isn't your superstar.
He's not the star. I have the star being Doug McDaniel.
It is, yeah.
But he's the
glue.
He's the glue, like he
Yeah.
was at Illinois for the past 4 years. And it's gonna be weird seeing him not in an Illinois jersey. He was kind of,
They match
the
up.
heart of that program.
They match up well size-wise with Kansas.
They're huge.
They're huge.
I really like this team.
Yeah, this is a team on the rise. Yes, they lost guys, but they replaced them. They replaced them very well. Yeah.
All right, next up we have a change in pace. We've had all these good teams in a row, and now we have Oklahoma State.
Yes.
I have them tier 5, but they do have redeeming qualities.
Is there a tier 6?
You would put them below Colorado?
No, but I'm just saying. I'd like to know what I know what the redeeming qualities.
I'll tell you
they
a
have.
couple.
They have 3 players.
All right, Khalil Brantley.
Yes.
All right,
About
Arthur Rodine.
Yeah.
Bryce Thompson.
Correct. Those are.
I will have to add, Devo Davis had a very confusing year at Arkansas, but in the past
has
been good. He's
been okay.
He was a Razorback through and through.
He's been okay. Yeah, Brantley. Both. But he was he's 6'1". He averaged 15 and
LaSalle
5.
plays with a lot
LaSalle.
of small guards.
And then Arturo Dean is even shorter, but he is and was 13 and 5.
Talk about a blur.
Yeah, he's a blur, and
also
he's a great defender.
He led the country in steals.
Great defender.
And those were not those steals weren't off ball shooting the gap steals. Those were I'm gonna pick your pocket steals.
Right. It's just okay. You're 5'11", 6'1" there, and I struggled to find a center on this roster.
Yeah, and they do lose a good amount of talent, and they weren't that particularly good last year.
Right. I mean, when we talk about talent relatively, Eric Daly was a high recruit.
He's going to UCLA. Javon Small
didn't do much there. Brandon Garrison, another pretty high recruit. And they have a new coach, right?
Steve Lutz from Western Kentucky. So it's the first year he's going to try to make his identity.
It's good struggle.
So they're tier 5 pretty clearly, but like I said, it's not like the Big East. We have some redeeming qualities here. I like some of these players.
Yeah, agree. They have a few players. We can all agree on that.
Next up, we have TCU. Where you got them?
I have them in the same boat, except I will say this.
You have tier 5?
Yes, they're better than Colorado, Oklahoma State. They're borderline 4. I wouldn't argue with them.
I have them tier 4.
Right.
I like some of these pieces actually.
Yes.
Ernest Uday. He's yet to really do what he did in high school as an All-American.
Yeah.
But he's returning. I like 4 actually transfers they got. Noah Reynolds from Green Bay. I don't know much about him, but he averaged 20. Trezarian White, however, from UNC Wilmington.
20 and 7.
20 and 7. He's got good positional size, and he was great in their upset win against Kentucky.
Yep.
And he's who I think their star will be. They also bring in Vaishon Alette, who was a freshman year at Old Dominion, averaged 17 a game, and who everybody knows, Frankie Collins. Everybody knows what he can do.
And they bring in Wenzel from Wyoming. And the crazy thing is, Alette, and I could be getting my stats wrong. I think Alette and Reynolds both averaged 5 5 assists. Here's my problem. The numbers look great.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
And Jamie Dixon's a good coach.
And Jamie Dixon's a good coach. But the problem is you are asking every single one of those players, except for Frankie Collins, to level up.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I was confident with Trezarian White, because we saw him do it against Kentucky.
Okay.
One game sample size, but still. But I hear you. I hear you with that. Jamie Dixon's a good coach. They run a lot. I expect this team will also run a lot. With Frankie Collins,
lost a lot.
They did lose Emmanuel Miller, Jameer Nelson Jr., Micah Peavy, Jacoby Cole. It's just lost a lot of production.
Yeah. Now, Dixon, great coach, and I'm probably in the minority on this one, and I might regret it. Maybe they should have been a 4.
Yeah, that might be a little low for them.
But that's where I see. A lot of things have to work for them.
Yeah, I get that. Next up, another team in Texas, we have Texas Tech. Texas Tech, for me, is a tier 4, and I was thinking about tier 5.
Wow. Okay, so I have them at tier 3, but I understand the problem.
They lose Pop Isaacs and Joe Toussaint. They're 2 best players easily.
Yep.
Right? And I don't love their transfers. I think JT Toppin will probably be their star. They bring in Kevin Overton from Drake, Elijah Hawkins from Minnesota, Federico from Pitt.
Yep.
But I just don't like this squad. I don't like how it fits. I don't like none of these players I really love.
Yeah, but here's the thing you're missing. Hawkins is your 5'11" point guard, averaged 8 assists in the Big Ten. So there's no translation issue there. He's going to do that. You then return McMillan, who scored 11 points. It's modest, but he's a heck of a shooter at 39%. And then
they do have some good talent return.
You've got Kerwin Walton.
He can shoot for sure.
And Williams was 11 and 8. You have Cambridge, who's still there, who you could argue is a star, ex-Auburn player.
No, he's an athlete, is what he is.
Well, he averaged 11 and 5, and then Toppin. They're all very similar.
Yeah, there's
no leveling up here. These guys are going to do at least that. I understand the concern here.
I might have been a little too harsh. Tier 4, I'm confident with.
Maybe they lack some size. Their depth isn't great, but Federico,
he's big.
He's big. I just don't know how good.
That's why I said he's big.
Yeah.
Next up, we have UCF. What do you have, UCF?
So UCF is also in a tier 3 for me.
I have them tier 3 as well, and I really like this team, dude. I think they will make the tournament. Year 2 of the Big 12. They have my star, the Johnsons. I don't know which one. Darius or Dior.
Dior, right.
But they do have good newcomers, and they didn't really lose a lot. They bring in Mikey Williams and J.J. Taylor. Everyone knows Mikey Williams and J.J. Taylor is his teammate from Memphis. Keyshawn Hall from George Mason, who's a big guard, about 6'7", scored the ball.
Well, average 17 and 8. He's more of a wing.
But I'm saying his play style.
Yeah, I got you.
And he actually, he came from UNLV. He got at UNLV. He was chunky. Now he's thin. So big. They also bring in Jordan Ivy Curry from UTSA, score 17 a game. Dallin Coleman, who didn't have a great year at Georgia Tech, but he's been at Georgia Tech for 3-4 years. And Mustafa Thiam, who was the number 2 center or number 1 center in the 2025 class and a reclassed up. He's 7'2".
From DME in Daytona.
Yeah, he's very thin, but he's 7'2".
And they also added Jokius from LaSalle, 6'10" kid, average 9 and 5.
Benny Williams from Syracuse.
Yeah. This team, and they returned Jalen Sellers, who averaged 16 points on 38% shooting. And they have a couple guys like that who shoot the ball very well. Ivy Curry was also 39%. This team may have the highest upside of any team outside of Kansas. You've got Mikey Williams, who was a top recruit.
And J.J. Taylor was with him.
And J.J. Taylor. Dior Johnson, much traveled, but
He
much talented.
led JUCO in scoring.
Yes, and now you got Theon, the
Yeah.
number 2.
If all these guys live up to their potential,
Wow.
very dangerous team.
Yeah, this is
Very
an
dangerous.
interesting chemistry experiment there.
Yeah.
But they've got pieces. They do.
We shall see, but I'm high on them. Next up, last two, we have Utah, tier 5.
Also tier 5.
I
But again, they have some redeeming qualities.
mean, for me, Gabe Matson's gonna be their star, 13 a game. He was there last year. They lose Brandon Carlson and Davon Smith. They bring in some solid pieces. Edra Asar from East Carolina, Mongolian Mike from San Fran. Caleb Lohner and Miro Little have been around at Baylor, but I don't like this team, dude.
No, last year's team was much better positioned. They do bring in, I think he's related. Madsen.
Madsen,
Yeah, from Boston College. Both high 30% from 3 shooters. I like Osar a little bit, but they've got holes. They can't fill the Carlson hole, and they can't fill the Smith
Yeah.
hole. Yeah. They could very well vie with Colorado and Oklahoma State for.
And now I think Colorado's in this league of its own at this moment.
I would agree, and then I would go Utah, Oklahoma State.
Yeah. All right. So last up, they're not the least, but I have them tier 4, West Virginia.
I have them tier 5.
You have them tier 5? Yeah.
But
I've seen a lot of people have them at the bottom of the conference, but I mean Tucker DeVree, with his dad as the coach, it's hard to bet against.
It is. He's proved it. Like
he has NBA. He's NBA.
He's an NBA caliber player, and he. Last time I checked, he's got a green light. It's not blinking.
Is his last name still DeVree?
It's green. We know who's going to get the points here, and then they
bring in a nice transfer. Some nice transfers.
Yeah, they bring in Okani from
UIC, but it's Jaden Stone from Detroit Mercy. I mean, granted, it's Detroit Mercy. It's about as low as you can go. 21. And Javon Small, 15 at OSU. So that's intra-conference transfer, and we know what he can do.
And then you got Youssefu,
who's been around
and is a solid player.
Solid role player, for sure.
Maybe their point guard. I don't know where they fit in.
I think small.
It's probably small. But yeah, they've got
redeeming qualities. You still have tier 5 though? Top end of tier 5.
They're very top end.
Yeah.
If I was going to expand it,
Yeah. They do lose a lot of production from it. Raekwon Battle, Jesse Edwards, Quinn Slazinski, Kirk Kriisa, but
I think the issue there is the guards. Okay, small accepted. Then you've got Stone. You're asking to make a huge jump. And then you're 5 guys who, Fresno, they bring in a kid from Fresno as well, and then Okani. You're asking for a leap, but you've got 2 absolute givens in DeVries and Small.
Yeah, I'm looking at the roster right now, and it's really Tucker carried. I'm expecting him to carry them to a good amount of wins, but I have confidence in him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't think his production's going to fall off much in the Big 12, but it was one thing to carry Drake.
Carrying West Virginia
in this conference.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't expect them to make the tournament. That's why I have them in tier 4.
But our conversation, if I maybe had to do it over again, I'd maybe
think about
them tier 4.
So that's our Big 12 conference tier list and preview. I think this is going to be a really good league this year.
I do. I agree.
We talked about strength.
3 natty.
3 natty for you. I have 2. We talked about the strength of just coaches in this league. It's a very well coached league. Big, strong, besides Baylor.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's going to be our Big 12 tier list. Next up, in our final installment of the Power 5, we're going to have the Big 10 or the Big 18.
The Big 18, and you're going to see a different format from us. And the Big 10, just a preview, we are struggling.
He's much lower on it than I am, but I don't think it's going to be the Big 10 of last year.
No, my point is, we're struggling to find a natty contender.
I'll make it work.
They're not bad.
Yeah.
Like there's bad teams, but the middle is fine.
Yeah.
It's you don't have a really great team.
There's no Zach Edey's walking around.
Well, he is walking around, but it's
not in Lafayette, West Lafayette. All right, but that's all, folks. If you liked the video, drop a like, and if you disagree with our rankings, which you might, we disagree, so you must disagree. Drop a comment, let us know your thoughts and opinions, and we will see y'all next week. Peace.